Welcome to the Pal Bros Movie Reviews, brought to you by our supporters at Patreon. Our reviews are more than just reviews. We are here to build the new Christendom by exposing the bad writers, money lovers, and sexual perverts found in Hollywood. Continue listening to know what type of content we as Christians should be consuming and what we should stray away from. This is the Pal Bros Movie Reviews. If you wish to support us in our mission, head over to patreon.com/thepalbros or follow the link in the show notes. There you'll gain access to our exclusive show, the Pal Bros Mini Reviews, as well as early access to both movie chronicles and movie reviews by the Pal Bros. And now, on with the show. The anti-hero introduced in the Amazing Spider-Man comics back in 1974 now has his second film come to fruition in this early 2000s action-adventure film. Full of questions on morality, Tobiah and Trent tackle this complicated film. Continue listening for the full review of The Punisher 2004.
Welcome, everyone. This is the Pal Bros Movie Reviews. We're here another week, another episode, another movie, and I am excited for this one. My name is Trent, and I'm here with my co-host, Tobiah. How are you doing, Tobiah?
Doing pretty good. Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited about this one. It's an interesting case study. There's a lot of interesting things that happen, and yeah, I'm excited about this one. I know I say it every time, but yeah, I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, this is going to be a really good discussion. I think with these Punisher movies, because we got the one in '89 that came out, and which, we talked about that, how it wasn't a theatrical release. This one was a theatrical release, and then you have Punisher Warzone with Ray Stevenson, and then obviously we have the TV show with Marvel, John Bernthal, which I think we can all say, yes, he trumps all these Punishers really well by a lot. But there's some redeeming qualities in each of these films that are enjoyable and are interesting to talk about and discuss. And the Punisher character itself is just such an interesting character. The Punisher was, I think it was in I just read about it. I think Amazing Spider-Man 120 something was his first appearance. He appeared as a kind of antagonist to Spider-Man, and he was very popular after that. And by popular demand, they gave him his own comic book series and a bunch more after that. And yeah, and then obviously with the movies and the TV show, it took a while for them to really get it right. They had, and I think we'll talk about this, they had a lot of things right with this one, but they didn't do a sequel, at least with this actor, and then they kind of rebooted it with another movie. That one didn't do well, and then didn't do anything for 10 years, and then eventually the TV show. So. But
yeah, and there's 15 years. There's 15 years between this movie and the last movie, because it came out in '89.
Right. That's a huge length of time.
And then the next one, Warzone, was only 4 to 5 years because it came out around when Iron Man came out.
Okay, yeah.
So
yeah, that's interesting. And just the character itself, he's a vigilante who takes justice in his own hands. He's willing to kill in order to take down the bad guys. He's willing to kind of cross the line that a lot of other heroes aren't. That heroes like Daredevil, even Batman, if you go to DC, Batman, that's his, he doesn't kill, and that's kind of a big thing about Batman. But Punisher, he's willing to kill, and he uses guns, and he gun down people, but he goes after the villains. He goes after those that are guilty, and of course he becomes the judge, jury, and executioner. And so we talk about that. We've talked about that a lot as far as what, is vigilante justice good? Is it right? What happens when the systems that God has put in place in civil government, what happens when they fail? And what happens when, citizens need to take up arms and take justice in their own hands. All of those kind of issues are discussed and brought to the forefront as we watch movies like this, and they're good questions, good discussions to have. And I think this one was just interesting in so many ways. It has a lot of really good themes. it has some issues. I do have some problems with it as it pertains to story, some of the technical aspects, and some of the acting. We'll get into that. But overall, like, I had a lot of fun with this. It was a fun, action-packed movie. I feel like the action was a lot more fun than the first Punisher, which we talked about that. I had a lot of issues with how they did a lot of the action. It just seemed really fake and forced. And,
a lot of the action in this movie was also like the character being intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
In the last movie, it's just run and gun,
Right.
But this one, he was very strategic. He was very smart.
Right. Which is more in line with
the
character of Punisher, which I do respect and like about that they went that route. So, and the action that was there, like, it was fun. It was good.
Mm-hmm.
Good early 2000s action flick. I know there's not a whole lot more to say along those lines. Just kind of briefly talking about how this movie came to be. The Punisher, around the early 2000s, was sold by Marvel to Artisan Entertainment as one of those package deals for a studio as Marvel's trying to make money. They sold off the Punisher, and Artisan Entertainment made this film, and I'm pretty sure they made the next one, Warzone, as well. And this one, it went through a lot of rewrites. The director/writer, he wrote a script and brought it to the studio, and they were like, yeah, this is great, but this is way too high. This is going to require too high of a budget for that we can afford or that we want to give to this movie. I think they were looking at like a $60 million budget with the script that he had given them, and that would have that would have been actually average for action films during this time, but they just didn't have enough hope in this character, especially because of the previous failure. And so they were cautious and didn't go with his script initially, and so he had to do some rewrites, actually multiple rewrites, until they finally narrowed down a script that they could go with and a budget that they could attach to that script. And the budget came out to be like around 30 or so million, which is kind of average but also pretty low. So they worked with what they had, and I think for the most part it paid off, and it looked pretty good, and I don't have too many issues along those lines as far as, whether it didn't feel like a super low budget action film.
Right.
So average. So kudos to them on that. But the actor Thomas Jane, he was actually offered the role. The director, Thomas Jane was his first pick, and he didn't even consider anyone else. He wanted this guy to play the Punisher, but Thomas Jane turned it down twice, and eventually he finally said yes and accepted the role. But the reason he turned it down was because he didn't think he would fit the role very well, and other people also didn't think that he would be a good fit. And yet, the director had a vision and had a guy in mind, so he pushed for it, got him, and I think it paid off. I think there's some directors that have an eye for that, where, like, you'll announce an actor for a role, and they'll be like, no, he doesn't fit that. That's not going to work. I try to think of an example, like not Jared Leto. Ugh.
Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger, when he was announced to be the Joker, everyone was like, no, that's a terrible choice. How could they go with him? But Christopher Nolan knew, and he obviously ended up being the best Joker that's ever been on the big screen. So anyways, good example. That was an example. Punisher, Thomas Jane, I think he was a good Punisher. I'd say he played the role well, fit the character well, and and like, he had really good range in this film. You start off the film, he's an undercover cop, but he's about to retire or at least settle down for a time. So this is his last case, and so you see him playing like a completely different role as a Russian arms dealer, and then once he gets out of that, once he moves on from the case, he goes and spends time with his family, kind of in it on retirement, or he's retiring, and he's with his family in Costa Rica. They're celebrating an anniversary or birthday party. His whole family there. His parents are there, and then obviously his wife and son. You get to see him. Oh yeah, you get to see him coming home to his wife, and surprises her, and you see their chemistry. You see how much he loves her and how much he cherishes her, and you just see the relief in his face when he's able to be home and when he's able to be with his son, and he's having that conversation with his son about saying he said this is my last case, and his son's like, you said that last time, but then he kind of assures his son, no, this is I promise this is going to be it, and that of course was heart-wrenching, especially for me as a father, because I know what happens next. But going further, you have the time with his family, and you can just there's one scene in particular when he's on the beach, he's sitting in a chair and he just kind of lays back and decompresses, and you can just see the relief in his face as he's at peace. He's with his family. He's no longer working this case. He had been working for a while, and then you see the love he has for his family. You see the joy and the happiness as he gets to spend time with them. And then once they're being threatened, once the gang members show up and start shooting up the place, you see him immediately switch to soldier mode, cop mode. He gets the guns, and you just see the adrenaline pumping through him as he guns down the bad guys. And then you see the worry and fear when his wife and son are being chased down, and when he as he runs after them, and then when he sees them dead, and just the pain and the sorrow. One thing they did well with that scene was, because we as the audience, we know the Punisher's story, and I think even a lot of the people that went to see the movie back then, they knew Punisher's story, and so they know that like his wife and son are going to die, but they did it well, because like all his other family got killed like pretty much right away. I mean, it's kind of slow, but they all got killed. Yeah. And then they were the last two left, and they were kind of getting away for a little while. So you like kind of think like it kind of gives you like this hope when you're watching it, like, oh, they could survive. But like, I mean, even though you know they're gonna die, like they did it well to like kind of trick our heads into thinking like, oh, there's a chance. But right.
We know the end results are they gonna die, but they did it well. They did it to where we like they gave us hope, and even when we knew like the end results,
right?
I think they handled it pretty well.
Yeah, I think so. My only little nitpick would be I wish they would have spent a little bit more time focused on him kind of being sorrowful and weeping over his family, because it only happens for like a couple seconds, and then the bad guys show up again. They start driving towards him, which is like, it's a nitpick. It's fine. It was a little hard for me because I did know they're gonna die, and so it's like, okay, you guys are kind of dragging this on. But then I kept reminding myself, all right, this is the first act of the film. Like, this is the movie's happening right now. The story's happening, which was the complaint I had with the first one. The first one, they didn't give us any backstory. They start out with him as the Punisher, and then they give us little flashbacks throughout the film, but never really enough, and we didn't really get to know Frank Castle before he becomes the Punisher. This one, we do get to know him really well, and that gives him a better story, better character arc, because you see him retired, at peace with his family. You see the tragedy and the pain of him losing his family, and then his quest for revenge, and then it comes full circle in the end. You get a full story here. The first Punisher, you didn't really get that. He was pretty much stone cold the whole movie. He was just serious and just trying to take revenge and doing Punisher things, but we don't really know him as a character, and he doesn't have much character in that movie. This one he does, and I appreciate that a lot, and I think they handled it really well for the most part as far as telling a full, complete story. And
for sure. And a couple things. So the action compared to the last movie, in this one, Frank Castle, like he's very strategic in this one compared to the other one.
Yeah.
In the other one, it was just like run and gun and just shoot the bad guys. But this one, he was like always planning, always thinking ahead, always had a plan for escape. And we even see at certain points in the movie, like him actually preparing and doing different things like that, which is just something we never saw in the other one. And this one, you can just see like, no, this is a very intelligent guy that knows how to be defensive and go to battle.
Absolutely. Yeah, which is pretty true to the character in the comics, which I appreciate. And yeah, I think overall, the Punisher character was well handled and established in this film.
Yeah.
And and at first I was like, okay, it's a little cheesy, but when he got hit the T-shirt from his son, I was like a little cheesy, but I was like, no, that works. No, because when he got it, like, okay, he's gonna wear that T-shirt after his son dies, and he's gonna wear that as a symbol for the revenge he's going to take. And
they were at a foreign country on an island, and he said he got it at a shop, and that the symbol means like it'll ward off bad spirits, and so like, and skulls and stuff are very island not tradition, but like a very common thing that you would see, like imagery of skulls and stuff on islands and stuff. So a lot of it really worked.
It worked,
well. And how they did that and how they presented it.
Yeah, I would say idea. Cheesy in that, like,
good idea.
Oh, it's the Punisher skull. Okay.
Right. Yeah, I know.
But it's like,
yeah, for sure.
It worked. It was good.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was his son giving to him just kind of added that emotional weight. And then when he found it in the water or in the ground after the witch doctor guy saved him. Yeah. Which interesting. We didn't. I thought we might see him again. The witch doctor who got him, who I think rescued him, right?
Yeah.
I thought we might get a little bit more from him, but I think he was more of just a helping hand to push him along and to go on his journey.
He served his purpose, and then just kind of done.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so kind of getting into the bad guys too. One thing I liked about this one, especially, I mean, we're going to probably just be comparing a lot, but compared to the last one, was like this one, we actually got to care about the villains too, like not just more of the good guys, but not care, but like have a more interest or understanding of them and their motives, because the bad guy, so his son dies sort of at Frank Castle's hands in the beginning.
Right.
Like, this is the very beginning, the very first scene. We get the villain's son dying because he was just being a dumb kid that was dealing. What were they doing? Dealing drugs or something? Or doing some sort
guns.
of gun deal. Yeah,
I think.
And so they got shot because they were shooting the cops. So he got shot, of course. But Frank Castle was running the organization, or running the hit, that undercover mission.
Yeah, he wanted to prove himself to his father, and he wanted to show that he could.
Yeah. Again, so he dies, and then the villain goes after Frank because
John Travolta
in his head,
everyone.
John Travolta. In his head, Frank Castle killed his son, and so he's out for revenge, and that's his whole mission throughout the movie, is to kill Frank Castle because of what he did. And that's why, I should backtrack a little bit. He first kills all of Frank Castle's family because he killed his family, he killed his son, and it was actually technically his wife that did it, because it was her idea, which we can kind of get into that, all that stuff. But where was I? So after Frank Castle comes back to life, that's when he starts to try to kill him, and he wants him dead because he's still alive.
Well, he originally
he
wanted him dead before,
right. He
go kill his family and kill him. That was the
and they
plan.
They essentially did, and that's a theme in this movie. Very common theme in and through is death and resurrection.
Yeah, totally.
And we see a lot of that painted out through this movie.
Even the fact
Frank
that he literally died. I mean, he gets shot multiple times, gets blown up, thrown in the ocean.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't die, but the theme of like him dying and he says this towards the end of the movie, is that Frank Castle's dead and he died with my family, and now the Punisher lives. So there's this death of Frank Castle, resurrection of the Punisher. And just the whole that theme is just very common in this movie.
And he kind of feels like he's been given another chance because he did survive. Because he should have died. But he survived, and so he's given another chance to go take revenge.
Yeah. So we have that, and yeah. So when he comes back to life, the villains wants him dead because he wanted him dead originally. So now he really wants him dead.
Right.
And Frank Castle's now out to get the villain and kill him and kill his family. So there's just all this revenge happening back and forth, and they both have the driving factor of revenge, the villain and the good guy, which was interesting because there were times when Frank Castle was thinking about it, or I think it was the girl that he was like his neighbor friend that was kind of planting that seed in his head, like, should you really take revenge? Like, isn't that wrong? Mm-hmm. And I think it was her, I believe.
Yeah, it was.
That said that, and I think he just shrugged it off, if I remember correctly. But
he shrugged it off and kind of ignored her. She was trying to trying to reason with him and to understand why he's doing what he's doing and recognize that maybe what he's trying to do is not the right thing. And then you had that line. Well, I guess that's before the third act, but when he's about to leave to go and raid Howard Saint's house, she basically asks him, like, are you gonna die tonight? And I can't remember what he says, but I mean, saying that, like, she knows that, like, what he's doing is gonna get him killed. What he's doing is it's not gonna end well for him.
Yeah.
And then there's some lines where they're talking about the memories, how, like, you can, or you can be redeemed by good memories or something, or good, like, something along those lines. I can't remember exactly what the line was, but basically talking about good memories and how he's like, I don't have any good memories, and he's trying to, like, remember his family, but the only thing he can remember throughout the film is pain and suffering and their death. And the end, what actually kind of saves him is his actual memory of his wife when things were good, and she and he's at peace, he's able to remember the good things and be able to move on from what happened after he was able to take revenge. And so we get into that, but as far as what you were saying, and that's what they were trying to do, I think. And
for sure.
What did you think about kind of the three side characters, the two comic reliefs and the female sort of love interest?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because they kind of, I think this is what they were going for, and I think they actually even said it, that they were supposed to be like a new family for him.
Yeah.
And they were kind of becoming like such a close friend group that they were like a family. And
they all live in this, like, almost abandoned apartment. So it's just the three of them, and they've grown really close together. They consider themselves a family. They're just really close friends. Yeah. You see them cooking together, dancing together, and having a good time together.
Yeah. The two guys were like such losers that they didn't have anybody else. Like, they just had them. And so that's why, like, it was a family for them, because they don't have a family, and that's the closest thing they've ever had to a family.
Right.
So for them, it really was a family.
She's been in a bunch of abusive relationships, and you of course have one in this that brings Frank kind of into their friend group when he beats up her boyfriend who's trying to threaten her and hurt her, and then he goes and punches one of the guys who lives in the apartment, and Frank rescues him and whatnot. So that kind of propels the story along to start bringing Frank into their friend group, and then they trick him and they say, "Oh, her boyfriend's back. He's threatening her. You need to come." And then he goes into the apartment, and they're actually wanting to have dinner with him, so they trick him to get him to come and have dinner. So he comes, sits down, and they're trying to kind of press in. They're trying to kind of get to know him, trying to kind of unravel the onion. She's like, "I know this isn't Thanksgiving, but let's say what we're thankful for," which one of the silly lines of the movie. But they go around and start to say what they're thankful for, and then he he gets to Frank and he's like, "Thank you for this food," and then he's about to leave, and I think they try to convince him to stay. But they're trying to bring him into the family. They want him to feel at home, and of course that is what helps him as a character grow and learn that he can kind of be friends with these people. He can open up to these people. This can be a family, especially when the guy with the piercings, when he literally is willing to die for Frank. He doesn't give Frank up. He gets tortured in a really gruesome way, where his earring or eyebrow ring is ripped out and lip ring ripped out. And don't do piercings, little boys, guys, dudes. Don't do that. Anyways, it was just that was pretty gruesome. But he was showing he was willing to die, and it's kind of side tangent. It was really stupid when the bad guys they torture him. He doesn't tell them where Frank is, and as they're leaving, he's like the guy says, I wrote it down. I thought it was really dumb. If they knew, they would have talked. They must not have known. So he's like he tortured him, trying to get him to tell, or get both of the guys to tell him where Frank is. And because they didn't, they must not know. He's like, if they knew, they would have talked. And it was like that.
I think he was I think he was saying like that they're just like just dumb kids, so like they wouldn't like he in his head he was like why would they suffer if they knew where he was? They would just tell us.
I guess. Maybe. I just thought it was really dumb when he just turns and looks at the guy. He's like, well, if they knew, they would have told us. I guess they didn't know, and then they just leave. Well, and then they do leave one guy there, say, hey, keep watch. It's like, are you kidding me? But okay, it's fine. You're probably right. I can understand how that makes a little bit of sense, because these are just two losers who shouldn't have much connection to Frank, and they're like, why in the world is he not telling us? And he just concludes, well, he must not know. So, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Anyways, side tangent. I'm blanking. Where were we?
Well, we were just working through the story, and then we talked about the three
side characters. I was kind of really annoyed with them. At first I was kind of confused because I felt like it was kind of forced. They tried to give a little bit of chemistry between Frank and the girl, and I feel like it just didn't work. I think it was helpful for his character to grow, because like I said, it helped him kind of helped him to realize that there's more in this world than revenge. There's more than just him, and to kind of come out of him, get away from himself, and see like, all right, these people are willing to take me in kind of as a family, and these guys these guys I don't even hardly know is willing to die for me. So that really kind of gives him a lot of conflict and struggle throughout the film. So I thought it was helpful. I don't know. The two guys were used as comic relief, and comic relief characters can either make or break a film for me sometimes, where it's like they can either be really funny and like draw and help the story move along, or they can be really dumb and annoying and kind of stick out like a sore thumb. I didn't think these guys were really funny, and I felt like they were kind of annoying. And maybe that was just me being cynical. And then the girl, she was like, I mean, maybe as I think about it, okay, she's been in abusive relationships. She has this guy, so she's probably attracted to, tough men who are.
Well, I think hard. I think with her, I think the chemistry that was there, it was all very purposeful. That it was kind of awkward and didn't really work because Frank has no interest in moving on from his family and finding another girl. Like, he had no interest at all. So it kind of made sense that it was awkward and didn't make sense and was uncomfortable for him to have any attraction to her or desire to be with her or anything. And he didn't. And that made sense. And then on the other hand, it did kind of make sense that she would be attracted to him.
Yeah.
He just saved her life, and well, not her life, but he just saved her by stopping this abusive guy and getting him out of her life that he's been like stuck in her life.
Right.
And so like she kind of sees him as a hero, and that's desirable for her.
Right.
But the chemistry that was there, like it was supposed to be not well fit and not work well, but it made sense that it was there because of who they are and their characters and what's going on.
Right. Yeah, I think it makes sense. As I think about it, I don't know. I felt like they could have done all that better. I was a little confused at first as to why it's like these random 3 people that are just in this abandoned apartment that are really tight, and then they want to be friends with Frank, and like, okay, why? And I get it, they are the 3 of them who are probably don't know each other before, are now really tight, and the new guy moves in and he saves the girl, he saves the piercing guy, and they kind of like, okay, well, like we like this guy, he's obviously, he has a heart, he's willing to do what he did for the sake of us, and so they want to kind of bring him in and realize that he's hurting and that he's a broken character. So yeah, I gave him a little more humanity, gave him that conflict and that struggle. So I guess I'm not as frustrated with it as I was before, and I don't really have much else to complain about as it pertains to this. I don't know. I feel like it could have been better, or the characters could have been written differently. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
probably just being nitpicky.
Yeah, I didn't think too much of them. I didn't dislike them as much as you did. But yeah, I don't know. They didn't stick out like a sore thumb to me or anything.
Sure.
I am kind of the one with the piercings, that the actor is Ben Foster. I'm a pretty big fan of his work. The one with the piercings.
Oh, okay. What's he in?
That's Ben Foster. He's in 3:10 to Yuma.
Oh. Wait. That's him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Yeah. So I'm a fan of his work, and I thought he did really good acting in this movie.
Sure.
With the character he had, so I think I was paying a lot of attention to that and just enjoying that. But yeah. Anyway, do you want to kind of get into the villain a little bit more and kind of work through that and kind of get into the third act here?
Yeah. Well, let's okay, so let's talk about the villain, but let's also kind of talk about a little bit of the plot, because so once Frank, he's reborn, he's the Punisher, he's ready to start taking revenge. And you mentioned how he's a lot more strategic than maybe other rendition or other versions of this character. So what's his goal? His goal is to pretty much tear down Howard's Saints empire. He wants to take everything away from him because Howard took everything from him. And it is interesting that both characters have a desire for revenge throughout the film. You see Howard Saint kind of go insane, where he ends up killing his best friend, killing his wife, and then of course he is killed by Frank and loses everything. Spoiler alert for the third act. We'll get to that. So, but you see him at the beginning. He wants to take revenge for what happened to his son. Obviously, Frank didn't intentionally kill his son. He actually, at the beginning, he's like, "Oh, poor kid." Once he finds out the kid died, it's like, "Poor kid, wrong place, wrong time."
Yeah, nobody was supposed to die. Yeah,
nobody was supposed to die.
Nobody was supposed to die.
Right. So it's like, so that was actually well done, because it's like, oh, he's not the Frank's not evil. He didn't kill the son on purpose, but obviously in Howard's eyes, it's his fault. So and his wife's eyes, so they want to kill him. And so that was, that was, I thought it was good, as far as both characters having the desire for revenge and planning out their plots. And Howard as I'm thinking about this a little more, I'm realizing this might have actually been done a little better than I thought. He kind of sits back and has everyone else do his dirty work. And he sends all his henchmen, he hires bounty hunters, and he sends everyone else to do his work. While he's kind of a effeminate pansy who lets his wife push him around and tell him what to do and have everyone else do everything for him. And he whines a lot. Okay, I get to him in a second, but my point is both you see both characters with they're driven, they have a purpose, they have a desire, they have a mission, and they both want revenge. When Frank is ready to take revenge, he starts plotting and planting seeds and doing everything he can to tear down his empire. He takes the money, throws it out the window. Chaos in the streets, everyone goes after the bills, and that causes all his business partners to kind of turn on him and be like, hey, I want my money back, like, I've been trusting you with this, with my money, and now it's gone, so can you, I want it back, and so you have that conflict. And then he slowly starts inching forward. Frank does, and as he plants the seeds for his business partner, he first off finds out he's gay. Or not his business partner, Howard's best friend. He finds out he's gay, takes those pictures, and starts planting seeds of suspicion for Howard to think that his wife is cheating on him with his best friend. So he
and then he's also using the pictures that he has to control the guy.
Yep.
To control the bad guy's best friends, right. And use him. And
clever,
so he's gaining control and planting seeds and manipulating people,
right.
Or the bad guys, and just working and gnawing away at their empire.
Yeah, and it starts when he kidnaps one of the guys that works for Howard. I think he was. Oh yeah, he was on the case at the beginning of the film. At that sting. He was at the sting.
That was kind of ridiculous. The whole the popsicle. It would make sense at first, but then it's like then the scene just kind of got ridiculous, and I was like, okay, this is
trying to be serious. It's like, okay, it's not that serious.
Okay, but then that character was, I didn't like how easily he just turned. He's like,
no, that
he literally says,
too. Yeah.
He literally says, "Oh, I hate those guys," and then he just tells him everything he knows about them. Like he's like, "Oh yeah, I hate those guys anyway."
Right.
And
then
here's everything I know.
Yeah, I mean, it shows like he's a pretty weak character. He's not really loyal, but it kind of, the thing about the villain with John Travolta's characters, he wasn't very intimidating at all.
Oh yeah, no,
not even
not at all. He was a very effeminate character. I don't know if that was the
point, because his own men turn on him. He's Frank's able to turn both his wife and
I think it was because the wife was running the show. She was controlling the guy. It was her idea to kill all of
his family,
Frank's family, and he's like, "Are you sure that's what you want?" And she's like, "Yes." And then he's like, "Okay, we'll do it." Right. And it was things like that throughout the entire movie. He was always doing whatever she wanted, whatever she told him to do.
Yeah.
And he was very effeminate.
But it was a little confusing because then there was times
not
where
intimidating really at all.
I think he was running the show, or he was trying to show he was running the show, but he wasn't. And then he was making decisions. And then he was like fully on board with going after Frank.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think so. There's times when he thought his wife was cheating on him, and he goes and kills her, and at that point, that's when he was having to step in and actually do things and not be just laying back and letting everybody else do his dirty work. So you see that he still has power and control over certain things, and he started utilizing that power. But it was, I kind of want to say it was John Travolta, kind of his fault for the lack of intimidation. I think just his acting for the character just
was
work. What made it not work and not be an intimidating villain. Because there was times I'm like, man, is John Travolta even trying at all? Like, he seems like he doesn't care at all about this role or anything. Yeah,
I totally got that sense too.
He was like supposed to, supposed to be like an intimidating in like certain scenes, but he's just talking normal, but it's like a heightened scene. I'm just like, this makes no sense.
Right.
So I think it was kind of John Travolta's fault for that.
Yeah, or it could just maybe he just didn't know how to act out this character because it was probably confused. Yeah. I don't know what the intention was exactly, because he wasn't intimidating. He was kind of being pushed around by his wife, but he was also, kind of the head of this whole organization and this whole enterprise, and he's hiring all these henchmen and trying to track down Frank Castle, and you show like he's leading in some senses, but then other senses he's like going crazy, and he's really whiny a lot. Like it was kind of annoying, and I didn't know what they were going for with him, and it was okay. It was fine. Or I mean, it's not fine, but I just wasn't a huge fan of him as a villain. If what they were going for was he's a emasculate, effeminate pushover, like, okay, fine, they accomplished that, and just show that, like, he in contrast with Frank, like Frank is a family man, and he's willing to do what it takes to protect his family, but his family's dead, and now he's going to take revenge for the sake of his family, and then he's going to become a hero, a vigilante, and because they're both characters driven by revenge, but one takes a different path, while the villain, he kind of, you see his downfall and destruction because of his own pride and arrogance that gets in his way, and he's blinded by it.
He was an easy target to be like overthrown and manipulated.
Absolutely,
and
that was kind of the thing.
And all that.
So this kind of starts
because
going to start getting my complaints
with the story. With the story, like if he was extremely intimidating, intelligent, and not a pushover, he would have seen through all the lies and probably not even cared if his wife was cheating on him.
Right?
Probably just had someone else just go kill her or something. And so if he wasn't effeminate and like that and emotional, and it probably wouldn't have worked as well.
Yeah. So this is one of my biggest complaints. There was very little conflict external conflict for Frank. Everything came easily except for the bounty hunter fights. The weird guy with the striped shirt that comes in, like, okay, that was a pretty
the Where's Waldo guy.
Where's Waldo? That was a pretty intense fight. The music was odd because they were playing the orchestra music in the other room, and it was played over for the fight. It was like a really slow. It was kind of a weird fight. Like, there's a lot of good action, but it also got really slow. And I don't know if it was just because they were showing that they were really tired, because they both got stabbed in the shoulder and both beating each other up.
Well, they're both stumbling
through
and
the walls, and
I think they're trying to go for like a realistic, like, oh, they're hurt, so
sure,
and exhausted, and
I guess so it's whatever. And then the knockoff Johnny Cash.
I
don't know. I was so confused. Like when he came in, I was like, "What is going on?" And he started singing that song. I was thinking, is this like so confused. I was thinking, is this a Johnny Cash song? I was like, wait, no, I don't think so. And he's obviously playing a Johnny Cash like character, and he's like singing about Frank, and I'm like, what in the world? And then he tells him like that I wrote, did you hear that song? I wrote that for you. And he's like, and I'm gonna play it at your funeral. And then he walks out, and I'm like, what in the world just happened? And so then Frank drives off, and then this green car comes chasing him down. And then I thought that was just one of his henchmen. I didn't expect Johnny Cash to show up again.
I know.
And he did, and then they have that whole fight, which was a great fight, and like great car chase and everything, and and Frank's about to get shot, but then he pulls out his knife and shoots the blade at him and kills him. It's like, it's good. Overall, it was a good scene. It was just, I was really confused. It was a little odd. Obviously,
it was
just
very
like,
weird.
Gun for hire. He's a bounty hunter, probably. So but I didn't understand what exactly was happening. And so when the Where's Waldo guy, because he came after that, when he came into the scene, into the movie, it was like, okay, that makes more sense, because Howard is sending men to go kill Frank. Oh yeah, and also when he's torturing the guy early on in the movie, I was really confused as to why he's torturing him in his apartment, where 3 other people that he doesn't know can definitely hear him torturing this man. It's like, why wouldn't you think that they would call the cops? I mean, they didn't, but I was just kind of confused. Why are you torturing him in your apartment? Like, go somewhere else. Go find a warehouse. I don't know. It was just kind of odd. Nitpick. Yeah. So you have the 2 bounty hunters, and decent action fight scenes. I'm okay with it. But other than that, everything else worked out perfectly for Frank. Everything went smoothly. He goes, there's like 12 men in the mansion. He has his bow and arrow, kills all of them, shoots them. He has no problem killing them all. And then when he gets to Howard, so we're moving in the 3rd act. When he gets to Howard, he poses no, and like what I've said, Howard was not a threat to him. Mm-hmm. Was that what they're going for? Sure, maybe. But even they had the standoff, which I'm a sucker for a good Mexican standoff in a movie, especially an action film, because I think it does a good job just slowing the scene down. Because he did it earlier, right? It was with 2 guys. So like he did the standoff early on in the movie with 2 guys and shoots them down no problem because he pulls out his 2 pistols, and so we're supposed to believe that this guy who's able to take down 2 is going to have a problem taking down this one guy who's done nothing this entire film. It was like, I'm watching that scene. It's like, okay, so what's going to happen? Frank's going to pull his gun out before him and shoot him, no problem. He pulls out his gun out, shoots him, no problem. And then ties him to the car, sets the car off, puts a bomb on the car, blows him up. I was a little confused at first, but when he went into the car lot, I was like, okay, so he's literally destroying his entire enterprise. He's finishing him.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that works for the most part. And then they have the skull at the end. Okay. Yeah. But there was...
it's hard to know if that was purposeful because of who the villain is and like how he's...
maybe. But...
He was easy to destroy.
But like you said, like one good thing that they could have done was, have Howard figure out. Like usually this is what happens in films. Join us on Patreon, everyone. After Hours show where we do movie reviews, short movie reviews of recent movies or some vintage movies, old movies that we've recently watched. Mm-hmm. I'm doing Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire this week, so if you'd like to hear my quick review and thoughts on that, go ahead and check that out. But I have a very similar complaint about that film that I have with this one. But with this film, if he would have figured out, usually this is what happens in films. The villain figures out the plot, the good guy's plot, and then it turns the tables on him. And then we're like, oh no, everything's falling apart. This whole plan that the good guy had in order to take down the villain is now crumbling. And now he's going to have to think on his feet and figure out a way to solve this problem. And he's pushed to the brink of close to death. And then he's able to find a way to find the will to survive, and he pushes forward and then defeats the villain. That's usually what happens. But this one, that I was expecting Howard to figure out like what he'd been doing or something, and maybe it was just like maybe they didn't do that so that he could have that scene where he throws the pictures and just humiliates Howard one last time, because he takes everything from him and he shows like he's able to use that line, I made you kill your wife, I made you kill your best friend, and then everything that you have is now gone. And then the scene with his son, like, you killed my son, and he's like, and your other one too, or something like that, after he blows up.
Yeah. Well, so I'm gonna kind of give you my thoughts now. this is something that happens in movies sometimes, for sure, where the villain doesn't pose an extremely large threat, but it's more the hero's own thoughts and actions and emotions that are more the antagonist. And I kind of feel like that's kind of what happened with this movie, because we got our Dark Knight of the Soul after the villain was dead already. After the villain was defeated.
That's what I was going to ask you about.
So this kind of shows that the movie wasn't necessarily about like his fight with the bad guy. It was about his fight within himself. Like, that was the fight throughout the movie. That's what he was fighting, and his own thoughts. And was it done very well? I don't think it was that well done.
Yeah,
but that is what they were going for. That is what they were doing, because the Dark Knight of the Soul was after the villain already died, and so the Dark Knight of the Soul in this movie was after he did what he accomplished, which was kill the bad guy, kill the guy that killed his family. He was sitting there in his own thoughts, and he had a gun to his head, and he was thinking about killing himself. And so this is where more death and resurrection theme came in. Was Frank, not the Punisher, because he calls himself the Punisher. Frank was like resurrected in his own mind, and came back when he thought about his wife, and his wife saves him in the end, and saves him from himself, from killing himself, and the thoughts, his memories of his wife, and like we had talked about, memories and these things were kind of set up beforehand of they have power and these so because that was after, it kind of shows that his fight all along was basically with the Punisher. Like, the Punisher was essentially Frank Castle's villain, and he ended up defeating his villain in the end, and Frank Castle lived on, and not the Punisher.
Okay, well done.
Was it done super well? I don't know if it was done super well, but
but
that is what they were going for.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's good. See, this is the same thing with the last movie, and I haven't done it yet. I want to rewatch this.
Yeah.
Man. Okay. So that's what I was saying. There's a lot of similarities with the last film, with the Hulk, just because these are more character-driven stories that, the villain doesn't. I mean, I'd say with the Hulk, the villain played a pretty prominent role. This one, like you're saying, maybe he didn't play as much of a role, or wasn't supposed to. It was more of a struggle with. Actually, this is the Hulk, because the point of the Hulk was Bruce Banner's struggle with the Jekyll and Hyde, being Bruce and being the Hulk, and that fight and that struggle, and that who's gonna win out in the end, and or how does he reconcile those two, while having to deal with his father and whatnot. This one, it's like, okay, he's wrestling with himself. Is he the Punisher, or is he Frank? And there's that death and resurrection. Okay, I get it, because you're right.
So I think this movie is supposed to be watched as Frank in his own battle with himself, and what he went through in his trauma, not so much about his battle with the actual villain.
Yeah, because I think what you're saying does make sense, and also what you said is like, or when you asked, did they do it well? I don't know if they did, because I didn't see enough of a struggle throughout the film that I was hoping to see. There's that line at the beginning of the second act, right before after he is saved by the witch doctor, the guy in the boat. He says, "May God be with you," or whatever, and then Frank's response is, "God will sit this one out." Okay, so it's like there's the kind of obviously the issue of justice and vengeance, and he's like, I'm taking vengeance in my own hands. I'm taking it from God, because he's acknowledging, in a sense, that vengeance belongs to the Lord, which is what is true and what we believe to be true. And so he's having that. He's showing that, like, I'm the Punisher. I'm the one and I'm going to take vengeance into my own hands. I'm not going to do the just thing and allow God to be just and and be the justifier of the wicked, or the one who pours out his wrath, and brings the wicked to justice. That's God's role, and he's acknowledging that by saying, well, God's going to sit this one out because I'm going to go deal with this. So anyways, my point is, you see him kind of become the Punisher there. Another death and resurrection theme, that was a little small, but the tombstone, when he rips the tombstone out, I was really confused. Like, okay, why is he doing that? And then I asked myself, I was like, oh, is he gonna, do that to show that he's alive, but not? But yeah. Anyways, he pulls the tombstone out and puts it on the golf course where Howard's at. That was a little clever thing. It's like, so he was dead, now he's alive. And that obviously, freaks Howard out, and he, like I said, he kind of runs and hides and then sends his henchmen to go and do his dirty work.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I think we could have gotten a little more of that struggle of,
for sure,
asking himself, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
I think the first Punisher, they did do this kind of well, or they had him work through that struggle more. And then you have the beginning and the end scene in that film, which was the same but different, and showing that he had figured it, he had changed. But anyways, I can't remember if they changed or not. But for the most part, they had that struggle was more prominent throughout the film. I didn't feel it as much this time, or see it as much. So maybe that's where it fell short.
Well, I think that's was one of the main reasons that the three side characters were there, was for absolutely. That reason, and that's what they were pushing for. And he even had that one conversation with the girl where she's like, "Are you doing the right thing?" And he just brushed it off or whatever. But they could have done more with that, and used and maybe one more conversation in there, two more conversations, just something else to kind of show that he is struggling with it and not sure. Like, oh, am I doing the right thing? Should I be taking revenge on them? Am I taking revenge for the right reasons? Am I trying to, destroy this evil empire? I mean, it is an evil empire that needs to be destroyed. Am I destroying it for the right reasons, or am I doing it for the wrong reasons? Am I going too far in what I'm doing?
And like, they don't give us, okay. They kind of give us an answer to that when he's about to kill himself, because you recognize, okay, he's still a broken character, and then he has that memory of his wife, and his wife's pretty much telling him to not to do it, and then so he doesn't kill himself, and then he's reborn as Frank, but also the Punisher. The two reconcile. It's like, okay, did they do that well? I don't know, because the whole thing where he goes out and he kills the son, he kills the wife, or he tricks Howard into killing his wife, into killing his best friend, doing all these things, and then killing Howard. Is like, Howard, like, the question is never begged, is this the right thing for him to do? Should he be killing these people and going through this plot? That isn't really necessarily answered. It kind of is when he's about to kill himself, and it's like, he's not satisfied, he's not made new. But the whole thing about the memories healing people, because then the girl at the end says, like, oh, you see, memories do heal, or something like that. And it's like, okay, so he's reborn, but they still leave that issue kind of unresolved.
Right.
And that's probably,
I also wonder if the writer wanted to make a sequel. I wonder if that could have been something too.
Yeah, I think, like, I would assume, like,
he was probably leaving it a little open ended.
I think he did want to do a sequel, but it didn't make. I don't think it really made a profit in box office. It had $30 million dollar budget, and I think they made 50 to 60 million, which is basically breaking even after half of it goes to the theaters, and there's marketing. I don't know how much they spent on marketing, or if any, but so probably not much in marketing. Right. So basically, they broke even, right. And so that's what's interesting. Like, they didn't do a sequel, but they did a reboot with Warzone. It's like, why?
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So, anyways, I think they were trying to find something that worked and that was a big hit, like Spider-Man, like the X-Men. These movies were making millions of dollars, and then but then you have movies like this, and then later on with like the Fantastic Four, which I guess they did go on to make a sequel for the Fantastic Four. What else came around this time?
Ghost Rider,
which they did do a sequel for that a little later on.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a huge success or not. The second one wasn't, but I don't know about the first one.
But yeah, well, other than that, the X-Men were still going on.
Yeah, it was X-Men and Spider-Man. Those were the big.
Blade was movies. Ending at the same time too.
But these movies are making profits in the theater, and they've had 2 attempts at Punisher, and they both failed pretty much.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, let's go on with a third actor and a third reboot, and
yeah,
didn't do much.
Well, so I don't know if you got much else for the story. There's just one other thing that I know we need to touch on,
right?
Which was the sexualization, but
action was good.
If there's anything else with the story?
The action wasn't like too flashy, but it was still pretty brutal. Just wasn't a whole lot, I guess. Well, maybe not.
Right.
I mean, I feel like there was just a lot of time spent with the 3 roommates or 3 apartment mates. But then again, like there was the bounty hunter that came in, and so there was good action. Yeah. There was no CGI except for maybe some explosions, but they looked all pretty practical, I think, and looked solid.
Yeah, I think so.
The score, I wasn't a huge fan of in a few places. Like the music they played during the speech that he gave before the third act. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was a little bit too uplifting, where it was like it didn't really fit the tone. I was like, it kind of took me out of the movie. I was expecting it to be more kind of darker and serious and more menacing. Yeah, and there were some other songs that were played throughout the film. I was like, it doesn't really work, and for me. Acting, like I said, sure. John Travolta, I don't think he did that great of a job.
Yeah, I agree, but I think the Punisher, I think he did. I think I really liked him.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it for me. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Okay. So one of the scenes, I can't remember what it said it was. If it was a club scene or something like that, but we looked it up before so that we could skip it, and it was pretty easy to skip. There was like strippers or something that get naked. So I think this is because this is the first movie we've watched that had nudity, I believe, in the Marvel. So it's a good time to kind of get into why this is so bad and compared to like
pointless
other sinful things like other sinful things like like a character getting drunk on screen or abusing someone on screen
or even violence
or anything like that, and the closest one that could sometimes get near to nudity would be, I would say, language. Because the difference between sometimes is the difference between like nudity in a movie versus someone getting drunk or violence.
Nudity or sex
violence
scenes.
It's not actually happening. It's like the violence is fake. It's
right. No one's actually dying.
No one's actually dying. No one's actually getting hurt.
Yeah.
Everybody's safe, and
it's fake.
Things like that. But the nudity, it's actually there. Real. It's actually happening. It's an actual, and this is an actual sin that's happening.
Yes.
Like sins had to take place for that scene to be there, and even the people that view those scenes, that's sinful, and that's where there's sins all over the place happening when that's happening, versus when you get like violence or drunkenness or anything like that that's not actually happening. It's all fake. It's all staged.
Yeah,
it's staged. So that's where that difference can come in.
Like even sex scenes, and if there's no nudity, sex scenes are still two actors getting naked, and you can say, well, it's acting, it's not real. Well, no, they're actually getting naked, and they're actually
even
having
sex. Kissing
and kissing as well. Unmarried people kissing. Unmarried people having sex, or married people who are having sex with other married people. It's like, oh well, it's just acting. They're not maybe there's no lust. Well, there's most definitely lust. It's there. Even if they're faking it or saying they're not lusting after this person that they're sleeping with, it's happening. And and then the act itself and being naked and being in the same bed with another person that's not your spouse, that's wicked. And then filming it and having everyone on set watch it and filming it and putting it in a movie and then distributing it to millions of people. Yes, that is wicked, and we hate that and we condemn that, and that affects how we view movies and how we think of movies. Even this one, like we have pretty high praise for this film, right? I mean, for the most part, it was actually a decent film. You even talk about, like, it's rated R. The violence, I don't think violence was too bad. Proceed with caution. It's R-rated violence. The language, there was a few F words and a few S words. The language, it was bad. It wasn't as terrible as other films. It was there. But then there was also nudity, and just a brief scene, a couple seconds, and it's easy to skip, but it's still there, and it was pointless. There's no reason to put that in your film other than we have naked women in our movies, and maybe we'll get some perverts to go watch it, and get excited about it. It's like, it's ridiculous, and there's just no reason to put this in your film. You think of another movie like Logan. Logan's an awesome film, a great movie, great story. There's one scene in there they had to put in, and in the limo, and it's like, why? It's just ridiculous. And what we're gonna point it out and talk about it, and it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, so pointless. Yeah, It was so dumb, because this movie had, like, and so that we'll get into this, like, a movie will have to get a low score because of having nudity in it, because the writers, directors, producers, all them, like, it is perverted for them to do that and put it in the movie. And we're judging the whole movie, every second of the movie that they put in, and so that includes that. We're judging that too. And because that's in there, like, we can't endorse a movie like that or support, like, any movie that has that in it,
right?
Because it is pornography. Like, pornography is people naked on a screen for a sexual attraction, and that's what that is. So it's just, it sucks that it's there. It really does. Yep. And if get the filters, get the filter subscriptions.
ClearPlay, VidAngel, and ClearPlay.
That's one I was thinking of. Two. Yeah, like, get those if you can watch, anything that has. If you can watch through that, go ahead. Just know you are still technically supporting those movies when you're watching them with the filters. So if you want to not support them, don't watch them and don't support that, because Hollywood needs to be destroyed, because they're heavily going and it's becoming more common.
Yep.
As the years go on, and
and things are being exposed and will continue to be exposed as far as the things going on behind the scenes, especially with everything going on with Nickelodeon. I can't remember the title of the documentary, but anyways, documentary exposing all the pervertedness that's going on behind the scenes with Dan Schneider and I can't remember his other name. It's not worth even speaking their names, because they're wicked men who need to be not only put out of Hollywood, but
for sure.
Yeah. Anyways,
well,
this one's been
with
long
all
enough.
That being said, let's go ahead and get into
how would you
like?
What do you think? So take out the scene. Oh, okay, so take out the nudity.
Yeah,
but
let's do two reviews. Let's do two.
Take out the nudity, but also, Howard's wife, she was very scantily clad throughout the film.
Yeah.
Even Frank's wife, she was in bikini a little for like one scene, and so like there's still promiscuous women and whatnot that, once again, like, you can skip, and like it doesn't change the story, it doesn't change the plot. and you should skip those scenes. So like, I would say take that out. I was thinking like 7.2. Now that's pretty high.
Yeah. No, that I was.
But
I'm pretty high on this one. This was a pretty great movie.
Yeah.
I think high 7s for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
7.5 maybe for me.
7.5 for you. Okay, so I'd stick with 7.2. So I'll go up 7.4. We'll say that. So clean version.
Oh,
7.4.
yeah. Well, yeah. I'm not actually gonna put that in.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we'll base it off of what it is.
Sure.
I think with the nudity, it has to be below 5.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking 4.9 or 5.
I was thinking
just
4.9.
5. Yeah, 4.9.
Okay.
If you've seen my TikTok's thumbs up movie reviews,
Did you do a new one?
this would get a what?
Have you done another one?
No, but
You need to start that back up, dude. You're so close to
In
1,000 followers. If you're
Yeah, I know.
not subscribed to Thumbs Up Movie Reviews on TikTok, go do that. Get some quality content.
In my head, like any movie that has nudity gets a thumbs down, and
Okay.
a thumbs down is below 5 stars
Okay,
or 5 points.
Yeah.
So that's why this has to be 4.9.
got it. Just right after this,
Yeah.
just do the Punisher real quick. Give a thumbs down.
Yeah, Punisher 2004,
You said 4.9.
4.9.
Yeah. Yep, that works.
Yep. Yeah, so the Punisher is just such an interesting character. There's so much to dive into
Totally.
with him, and it's such an interesting concept, and it's great. And there's lots of Punisher content, like with the show now, and all that. And with the show, he's going to be coming back in
Born Again.
Daredevil Born Again, and there's been some set photos and stuff. So we'll be talking about that in our other show, Movie Chronicles with the Powell Bros, and you can go check that out. It's a free show. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a few other podcast websites. I had trouble getting it onto Apple Podcasts for a while, but it's up and ready now, so you guys can head over there and check it out. And yeah, if you want to just hear what we have to say about Hollywood and just their downfalls and also the other stuff that we see that's good in the film industry that's we see potential in, and yeah.
Definitely.
Cool. Well, that's our review for The Punisher 2004. We appreciate you guys listening and your support. And yeah, we look forward to next week with Spider-Man 2.
Yep.
We'll be back into Spider-Man movies.
And I'm never going to let this down. Madam Web is still too high of a score. So, just saying. We gave The Punisher 89 a 1.9. That's fine.
I think X-Men Origins is too high. I think it should be like
fair.
4
This is
or
okay.
3.
So, no, what this is.
That's the only one that I'm not
I-
happy with is X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Okay.
I think that's the only one.
We'll talk about that more
All the
later.
others I'm pretty happy
There's
with.
a discussion there that I want to have, but this isn't the place, isn't the time. We've gone way over. Let's finish
This
this up.
is our longest
This
one
is our
for
longest
sure.
one. Yep. All right. You want to close this out?
Yeah, like I said, we appreciate you guys listening and look forward to next week, Spider-Man 2, and then Blade Trinity after that, and Elektra. So we look forward to those, and we appreciate you guys and your support. And yeah, just be mindful of what you're watching, what you're consuming, and seek to glorify God, and even in the things that even in the entertainment that you support and consume. So that being said, thank you, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.